Terraria offers lots of ways to make your character stronger, from better weapons and armor to life crystals that increase your maximum health. That said, what if we decided to do something crazy in a game that's all about powering up your character? How's it going, crew? This is HappyDays, and today we're going to see if we can beat Terraria without using a single life crystal. Now, as always, before we get started, let's lay out the ground rules so we're all on the same page with this challenge. As the title of this video states, we're going to try and beat Terraria without using any life crystals, which means I can't use them to increase my hit points or craft them into heart lanterns. We're allowed to use any weapons, armor, and accessories we want, and unlike our last challenge, I can now mine up blocks and ores, which will help immensely. Just to be clear right at the start, this isn't a no-hit challenge. In fact, I'm probably gonna die a lot during this run, especially during events when I'm farming for items. Now that said, crafting life force potions in hard mode, which will boost my 100 health by 20% to 120 health for 5 minutes, is allowed, as this is clearly not using a life crystal. That said, challenges like no potions or no accessories might be fun if you'd like to see that one next. I won't be using the auto pause nurse trick to refill my health during boss fights, as I feel it's not in the spirit of this challenge, but you're welcome to use it if you wish. As always, we'll consider this challenge completed when the Moonlord is defeated for the first time, which means we'll have to survive all the way to the end of the game without using any life crystals. Finally, I don't intend to use any bugs or glitches in this challenge, but I will be using items such as ropes, platforms, traps, statues, and even minecarts to help during some of the boss fights. With that said, let's get started. We'll start off this adventure by chopping some trees, crafting some starter equipment, and building some NPC housing. NPCs such as the Demolitionist will help a lot in this adventure, as explosives will allow me to quickly explore new areas and collect loot and ores. Unlike our last challenge where I only focused on necessary bosses, in this challenge I may battle some optional bosses as well to acquire stronger armor and weapons earlier on. The first boss I'll be looking to take down is the Eater of Worlds. If I can manage to defeat it, I'll be able to craft some powerful shadow equipment to help with future bosses. I will likely challenge SKELETRON, as the dungeon provides some nice loot and the Wall of Flesh will be required to start hard mode. I may try to tackle Duke FISHRON early on in hard mode, because if I can manage to defeat him, the weapons that he drops will help immensely with the other hard mode bosses. From there, I'll be following the usual boss progression of fighting the mech bosses, PLANTERA, GOLEM, the Lunatic Cultist, and then finally the Moonlord, but we'll be making sure to massively power up after each boss encounter. After crafting some torches, we can start to explore some caves and find some starter loot. Some of my main priorities are movement accessories such as Hermes boots, any bottle items for double jumps, and gems to craft a gem hook. I'm also on the lookout for clay, as I'll need to get a decent plant farm started early, as buff potions will be very important in this challenge, and a steady supply of seeds and herbs will be essential, as will an alchemy station from the dungeon. For those wondering, I'm playing on a large world size in normal mode. Hopefully the large world gives us plenty of opportunities to find the loot we'll need for this challenge. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get the Goblin Tinkerer NPC for reforging in this challenge, as the Goblin Army invasion requires you have over 200 health before they can spawn. Yep, that even includes the Goblin Battle Standard summoning item. Thankfully, there's still some ways to get modifiers that I'll show you later in this video. Oh, look at that, it's a crystal heart. It looks so lonely, just sitting there by itself. I wish I could mine it up and take it with me, but I cannot. I'm gonna build a little shrine to keep you safe as we move on with our challenge. To get ready for the Eater of Worlds, I start bombing out a large arena in the Corruption. I'll need plenty of room to avoid its attacks, so a large arena should help me out. You can even use the Ebenstone blocks you get to smooth out the arena. The trick to starting this battle is to use a sticky bomb near the last shadow orb so you have time to get to your arena before the boss spawns. Take your time and wait until you get clean shots against the boss's head, as it has less health and also stops the Eater of Worlds from splitting into multiple worms. Another trick in this fight is if you can defeat the head just as it's touching a platform, it may try to move along the platform towards you, giving you lots of easy shots at its head and allowing your jester arrows to tear it apart. Just a quick note that you'll likely need to fight 2 Eater of Worlds to get enough Demonite ore for all your crafting needs, so either smash some more orbs or craft some worm food to summon another boss. Before I do any crafting, I really need to find some Hermes boots. I do a looting run through the underground desert which has lots of golden chests, and find a few gems along the way too. If you're doing this challenge, take as much time as you like at this stage, collecting loot to use it or sell it. Back at base, with the Eater of Worlds defeated, I can upgrade to Shadow Armor, craft a Nightmare Pickaxe, and a Gem Hook. Now that we have the Dryad, I'll also start planting pumpkin seeds, as pumpkin pie will give me the well-fed buff, giving me a nice boost to all my stats. Our next step is to start preparing for the Wall of Flesh battle. There are plenty of upgrades available at this stage, and I think we should definitely grab a few of them. Our first stop will be at the dungeon. Don't forget to always check and see if there's a water bolt at the top of your dungeon. It's a powerful weapon against Skeletron, so if you can grab one before the dungeon guardian eats you, it's totally worth it. For our Skeletron battle, I'm going to craft 3 long platforms so I've got plenty of room to run away from this crazy skeleton. Also, as I found a water bolt, I made a few more mana stars and put wood on the sides of my arena so I can bounce the bolts back and forth. The main strategy in this fight is just to attack the hands using your strongest weapons and use your mobility to avoid taking hits. Fire arrows, the snowball cannon, or our musket all do decent damage, and our water bolts help out a heap too. Just be careful if you use grenades during this battle, as they can damage your character as well. With such low health, you may accidentally die if you're not careful. I think this is a good point to discuss a useful tip for this challenge, and that will be setting up spawn points around the map in dangerous areas like the dungeon, jungle, and underworld. I'm likely going to die a lot due to my low health, and having a spawn nearby will save me lots of time getting back into the action. The dungeon is quite dangerous, and with our low hit points we won't be staying in here for long. Our main goals are to find a shadow key, the mechanic NPC, and loot as many chests as we can get our hands on. The Blue Moon and Muramasa both have knockback and are great against melee enemies like skeletons, so hopefully I can find either of them. One last thing we'll do before heading to the underworld is go and fight the Queen Bee. By doing this now, we can immediately grab leaf wings at the start of hard mode from the Witch Doctor. Our snowball cannon deals good consistent damage to the bee, and water bolts help deal with the small bees. We're able to keep our health high with a combination of our buff potions, and we can even use the honey in the hive for quick regen. I'll make one last quick trip to base to craft some bee nades and necro armor, as well as grab some more buff potions, and then we're off to the underworld. After setting a spawn point in the underworld, we're ready to start exploring. It's not going to be easy, but I want to try and raid as many shadow chests as possible. Using the water walking potions we've collected so far in our adventure allows me to easily walk on the lava so I can quickly get between buildings. Did you know that shadow chests can actually contain life force potions? They're not common, but if we can find one, it'll give us an extra 20 health for the Wall of Flesh battle. Also, the pots in the cavern and underworld layer can drop heart reach potions, which will give us a tiny regen boost as we destroy the many minions the Wall of Flesh spawns. For the battle, I've placed wooden platforms so my Hellwing bow, loaded with Hellfire arrows, can easily attack the Wall of Flesh. Combined with the bee nades we made earlier, we can quickly destroy the hungries and focus on the wall itself. I brought some honey from the beehive to increase my regen, and the heart reach potions are grabbing all the hearts spawned by the hungries. After a fairly short battle, the wall is defeated and we got a nice ranger emblem for our troubles, which surely will come in useful. Now we're in hard mode, there's tons of upgrades available to us. Our first mission is to visit the jungle and grab a set of leaf wings from the Witch Doctor NPC. We have a few options for our next step. We could find a safe spot and simply fish up crates to get some hard mode armor, but I want to get out there and explore, so let's go to the corruption and smash some demon altars. Luckily, titanium has spawned in our world. This is amazing as titanium armor has the shadow dodge ability, which allows us to completely avoid damage once every 30 seconds. After upgrading to a molten pickaxe, we'll take a few moments to mine up some ores and farm enemies for loot. I'll be targeting skeleton archers to try and get my hands on a magic quiver. The magic quiver has a 1.25% drop chance, so we should get one by the time we've finished mining. I do die a lot during this part of the challenge as I'm lacking good armor and weapons, but it's really enjoyable to be in such a difficult situation, and soon enough we'll get some more powerful equipment. Next we'll upgrade to some titanium armor. As our initial fights will need bows, we'll take the ranger hat for now. That said, I do intend to try magic and summon soon, as I think they'll be really useful in this challenge. Now, if we're going to try and take on Duke FISHRON this early, we're going to need a Daedalus Stormbow, which means fighting hallowed mimics. Thankfully, they're not too difficult to battle with our leaf wings, and they'll also give me a good supply of greater healing potions. It's also time to stock up on buff potions for hard mode, which requires some fishing. I'll put an image on screen of the main potions we need and the fish that we'll need to get. After collecting some truffle worms, we make our way to the ocean. This will likely be our toughest battle so far because most of FISHRON's attacks will almost kill us in a single hit. Our Daedalus Stormbow armed with holy arrows allows me to roughly target FISHRON's position while also concentrating on dodging its charge attacks. If you didn't know, FISHRON does 5 short charges in its first form and 3 long dashes in its second form before it pauses to unleash an attack. As we have no means of dashing horizontally, I've constructed some platforms that allow me a decent amount of mobility around the arena, whilst also giving me the option of grappling onto them if I need a sudden horizontal dodge. If you press jump right at the end of your grapple, you'll actually maintain your momentum in the direction you're heading, which is a massive help in this fight. After a short but deadly battle, FISHRON falls and we pick up our first prize, the Tempest Staff. Is Terraria hinting I should swap to a summoner build soon? For now, let's continue to farm some FISHRONs. I'm happy with any loot FISHRON drops, but a pair of his wings would be nice. After I've finished playing at the ocean, I craft some mech boss summoning items and head to the desert. I make a simple arena consisting of wooden platforms, some honey for regen, and sunflowers for a speed boost. I also fish up some variegated larkfish for summoning potions to take advantage of our new Tempest Staff summon. With our new FISHRON weapons, the mech bosses don't stand a chance as long as I keep moving. My titanium armor also helps me avoid most of the damage with shadow dodge. With the mech bosses defeated, it's time to go after PLANTERA. I return to my jungle spawn and start to mine out an arena. After finding a bulb, I lure PLANTERA back to my arena and unleash the power of our bubblegum, flare-on, tsunami, and tempest staff to make short work of the overgrown plant. Thinking ahead to our upcoming Moonlord battle, I want to try the Summoner class against it, so I find a second bulb, and thankfully this time PLANTERA drops a Pygmy Staff. We visit the Witch Doctor and buy the Tiki armor. Earlier in this video I hinted that we can still get modifiers without the Goblin Tinkerer, and one way to do this is to repurchase the same accessory over and over again. It's kind of expensive, but I managed to get Menacing on my Hercules Beetle and Angry on my Pygmy Necklace for a nice extra 7% total damage boost. At this stage we have a few options. I could go and farm Ectoplasm to challenge the Pumpkin Moon to get spooky armor and a necromantic scroll to further boost my summon damage, but it is a bit of sidetracking, so I might keep it as a backup plan for now. We blast our way through the temple with our army of Sharknadoes, courtesy of my Tiki armor, but that said I do have to be careful for traps, and as I find out the hard way, spear traps can instantly kill me. Thankfully, the golem chamber is quite large, and as I intend to farm a few golems for extra loot, I spend a bit of time disarming the traps and making a nice arena. The position of the lizard altar means golems spawn stuck in the wall, which is nice for us. Once one of its fists is destroyed, it jumps out ready for battle. Golem does do a lot of damage to us, but thankfully we can take it out before the fight goes on for too long. With Golem defeated, I'm fairly happy with our current loadout, so let's move straight on to the Lunatic Cultist battle. Although the Cultist is generally an easy fight, it can do a fair amount of damage, so we can't afford to mess around here. I hope my Sharknadoes can land some hits while I blast it with my Tsunami. This is a close battle and I can't risk spawning more Cultists, but at the same time, the longer this fight goes on, the more chances I have of dying. It's a really close battle, but we managed to take out the Cultists just before we get killed. Now the pillars have spawned, it's a great idea to focus on them in the order we want their weapons. I need more accurate summons, so we're heading straight for the Stardust pillar. The pillars prove tricky as the swarms of enemies can kill me in only a few hits, but if we keep our distance, we're mostly okay. I also target the Vortex pillar quickly as I'd love to get my hands on a Vortex Beater. This powerful gun may help during the Moonlord battle to help my summons deal a little more damage. I'll also make a quick detour to the jungle to mine up some Chlorophyte ore, as I'll also want to craft Chlorophyte bullets to pair with my Vortex Beater. I only have enough fragments to craft one of each weapon, so fingers crossed we don't get any bad modifiers on them. After defeating our third pillar, I make some quick preparations for the Moonlord. I place a few lines of blocks around the arena to help shield against the Moonlord's attacks. I also make sure the runways are super long, as I suspect I'll need to keep moving during the battle. I need to get the Moonlord's core open as soon as possible, so we'll focus on its main eye every time it opens. During the first phase of the fight, I prefer to stay closer to the Moonlord so I can reliably fly around its phantasmal death ray. Once the core opens, I immediately focus my Stardust Dragon on it and start running. Our Unicorn mount helps me keep ahead of most of the Moonlord's attacks, and my Vortex Speeder keeps the damage pumping out. When the Moonlord starts exploding, we know we've finally achieved our goal. We've beaten Terraria without using a single life crystal. This was a really fun challenge, and I'm sure there's lots of different ways you could try it. What would you like to see me try and beat Terraria without next? Let me know in the comments below. This video was so much fun to make, and if you enjoyed it too, please let me know by smashing that like button and consider subscribing to see more fun videos like this. And here's the most important part as always, you'll stay happy and I'll see you soon. This is HappyDays signing out. See ya!